For the war, against the war, who cares? 100 episodes. I've always wanted to say that. Hey guys, what's up? It's Big Jack Films here, and welcome to the audio commentary for Big Jack Films Reviews, episode 100, Dragon Ball Evolution, the 10th anniversary. These are going to be commentaries for each part, and I'm not going to do them all as one feature because that would take forever, but we're basically going to be talking about the origins of this episode, the making of it, and so on through these three parts, so enjoy. So the first thing I should say is, yeah, this was a real thing I wanted to really put together, and a lot of the storyline you're seeing with the DBZ crew and myself through this sort of Roger Rabbit-esque storyline was all stuff I wrote in my head like 15 years ago when the show was going on, when it was airing on Toonami. Now, I've been a big fan since, but yeah, this was all kind of in little written notes I had in handwriting that I finally got to tell on a sort of screen here. So basically, yeah, through YouTube, I've been able to finally put a lot of my projects in terms of what I've always wanted to tell onto a visual media. So a lot of this stemmed from when I was like 10 years old watching the show and what I've always wanted to see in terms of a Dragon Ball Z story involving an original character. Now, one thing I should mention, and I'll bring this up a lot later and probably a lot through this, these three parts, is that all these green screen shots, that's actually one of my favorite shots that came out of the whole green screen process. A lot of these green screen shots took a long time to put together, and that's why this episode took forever to put off the ground. It was originally supposed to come out in April of 2019 for the 10th anniversary of the movie, but then it got pushed back more because of the complications involved, the ambition involved, and I really wanted to make this episode special. So these shots, this whole green screen shoot took probably a whole night's worth from like 9 p.m. till 6 a.m. in the morning. I was like filming non-stop, self-crew, just on my own. We bought a brand new green screen for this episode because the one we had used since our remake of Kong had since been kind of deteriorating and kind of fading away, and it wasn't really green anymore. It was like a bright greenish yellow. So yeah, in terms of this episode, this was something I've always wanted to talk about because Dragon Ball Evolution was actually technically my first YouTube review, like, of all time. It was the first movie review I ever did back in 2009. I did see the movie twice, and I was one of those people who at least, I know it's bad, guys. I know it's bad, but I at least tried to give it a fair shake. I did try to give it a chance, and boy did I regret it. Because over the years, the more I've gone back and watched it, it got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And it just, you know, I finally thought, okay, it's 10 years later. We finally got a good anime movie with Alita Battle Angel. Let me finally talk about the first time Fox tried to get this going. And yeah, a lot of people helped write this episode. Josh especially. Josh came up one day and watched the movie with me. He's not a big Dragon Ball fan. Like, he's only seen a few episodes, and I mean, his favorite anime is Evangelion. But he came up and helped me write the episode because this was very much a riff kind of episode where he riff tracked the whole movie, and we took notes and watched it. And then that helped me pretty much form the script. So a lot of jokes did come from Josh as well. Bradley was a huge help in this episode filming it, as well as some other people we'll get into, mostly in part 3. And I still love that intro to this day. I gotta make a new one, by the way. So this whole thing here with me just kind of heavily breathing, saying we finally did it, this was basically based on Nostalgia Critic's review of Care Bears in Wonderland when he finally said we're at the final film, even though that wasn't true. There were other Care Bears movies after. And I honestly wanted to do, you know, fireworks and stuff, celebrating the 100th episode and the song Sweet Victory from SpongeBob, because that was all over the charts after the creator of SpongeBob passed away, so everybody was listening to this during the Super Bowl incident of 2019 when they didn't play this song, so I figured I'd do the favor. And yeah, it's just, there was a lot that I kind of came up with. The original idea was to do one episode. The 100th episode was going to be one video. It was going to be a simple review of the movie. And yeah, this is actually, if you go to my old YouTube channel, you can still find that review, I think. I'm not 100% if I took it down or not. But anyway, so this was supposed to be one video, but then it got to the point where, like, editing was taking so long and it was so complicated to come up with shots and everything, that then I realized, okay, this has to be 2 parts. And then halfway through that process, I'm like, oh god, this is gonna take longer. So then it ended up being 3 parts and therefore a trilogy, which I felt was a lot better. And funny enough, at the same time I was doing this review, Razorblade, I got introduced to Razorblade because he had reviewed the same goddamn movie, and he put it all into 1 part. And I don't know if my review is longer or his review is longer, because both of ours clock in at over 100 minutes. I just don't know which one's longer. I think technically mine is a little longer. Any chance I can make a Home Movies joke, I will, because Home Movies is like my number 2 favorite show of all time, Inuyasha being number 1. But Home Movies, guys, I've got a couple people now finally watching Home Movies. It's worth watching. It's one of the best shows on Adult Swim. And talk about a show that needs a revival. Like, I would so tune in if they decided to bring that back. And a lot of this is another thing about this episode. Not only was this, like, a real groundbreaker in a 100th episode, but it was also kind of a chance for me to talk about my side of me being a Dragon Ball fan and what I went through growing up, because I had, you know, I grew up in Canada, and I did watch back-to-back with Beast Wars was Dragon Ball, and it was, I think, one of the shittier dubs, and then when I got to the States, I was there. I was there when the strength of men failed. I was there when Dragon Ball Z became the top big thing in the fucking world. It was the biggest, show at the time, on Toonami. I think every afternoon at 5:30, it was right after school, all my friends would go around the TV watching Dragon Ball. And yeah, it was beating Survivor. I didn't notice that until I read, like, some of the booklets in the, orange box sets of the show. And funny, and this is the thing, like, I mean, I watched the show whenever I could, because actually, okay, I want to bring this up. I did actually see that airing of the JBVO broadcast of, which was a show where Johnny Bravo would host a bunch of cartoons. It was like a radio request show, and somebody did request to play that whole episode, which I agree, like, I was actually looking forward to, because I missed that episode when it aired, and then Johnny was like, unfortunately I can't play that episode, but we can do an abridged version. So it was the first abridged thing where they abridged that whole thing and fast forward. And yes, that is an embarrassing photo of me as a kid. I looked ugly back then. But yeah, Dragon Ball was my workout. It was so much things. And in fact, the thing is that my mom and dad weren't so keen on me watching it at the time. They were one of those people who thought, oh, this stuff is too violent for kids. But it's like, you know, that whole debunking of violence and real-life violence is a total myth. And yeah, I wanted to discuss more about costuming, but I couldn't really find the word, so I just took an interview with Rick McCallum when in the documentary, Within a Minute, the making of episode 3, which is a great documentary about a whole minute and how long it took to make that whole fight sequence. But yeah, so, like, the Frieza saga was my jam back then. I had every tape of it, and I just kept watching it, and it's just such a damn good show. And the fact that and then when I came back, yeah, this was true. The Ocean dub, I came back, and I was so confused as, like, a 10, 11-year-old, like, what the fuck? And I'll fucking love Ocean, man. I've only come to appreciate a lot more of, like, the 2000s media now, especially SpongeBob. So SpongeBob now has actually become a lot more of a thing for me. I've really enjoyed the show. I mean, I was a little older for it, but nowadays, because of the memes, it's great. Now, yeah, again, it was just a lot of writing. That's half the reason why this episode took so long, because I was constantly adding things, adding details and shit I wanted to do. And thankfully, the way I got all these clips together was, thank goodness for people on YouTube being able to take the remaster, take the Toonami bumpers that they had and editing it down with HD footage, and it looks marvelous, and it's great for editing to use this kind of stuff. Okay, that clip with the German guy going, the list is almost endless, that's from The Great Escape, aka my favorite World War II movie. If you want a good World War II film, Great Escape is one of my favorite movies, and at some point I do want to talk about that. Now, this was funny because I always imagine these two having a conversation, the Mark Hamill Joker and Frieza. They just seem to be keen on each other, and if you listen to the dialogue, yeah, it is very much a conversation they would probably have, especially, I love the thing that Joker says where it's like, you know, there are differences to be sure, like hair, because Frieza don't have hair, and you can tell Frieza's just so pissed off at that. You know, it's just the reactions are perfect. Now, the dialogue of the Joker is actually from the world's finest movie with Batman and Superman. And he's actually talking to Lex Luthor. Now, these shots of Frieza, a lot of these, you gotta remember with Dragon Ball, doing crop shots with Dragon Ball characters is actually pretty easy, because half the time, like, the backgrounds that Frieza or Cell are in are either blue or green, because Frieza's on Namek and the whole sky is green. And it actually is perfect to crop out shots. And the same thing with Cell, like, he's on blue most of the time, so it's a lot easier to crop a lot of shots like that out and make it look like it fits in a real thing. And yeah, this was, okay, that fan trailer that came out a couple years ago, that was actually pretty kick-ass, I'm not gonna lie. Although it looks like a CW movie, but again, give this shit to Zack Snyder, he would do fantastic. Now, I actually did used to own this magazine as a kid, and there were things like Lou Ferrigno and Leo DiCaprio as Trunks, like, there was some crazy casting back in the late 90s. Now, this is from the first teaser, and it was in the shittiest quality. I had to dig all over the internet for some of these clips and everything. So I have a lot of the early teasers for this movie. Because at the time, the internet, like, when this movie came out, it was right around the time I was in high school. I just started, and probably like my second year in high school. And at the time, it was just kind of like the internet was pretty new, YouTube was pretty new, and it was kind of interesting to see people's reactions even back then. That was, I think, at the time beforehand, the most hated video aside from the Ghostbusters reboot. And then with the DVD is interesting because, yes, we did destroy it, and I'll bring that up a bit later, but the DVD I bought the movie at Blockbuster Video back then. I think I bought it with Role Models, which is one of my favorite comedies, and that's why it looks a little different, because that is an actual Blockbuster Video case, and yeah, we did destroy that. We destroyed an artifact. I apologize, historians, but that whole DVD was actually signed by the majority, like a couple of cast members from the Funimation dub, and over the years I felt really bad that I got them to sign it, so I felt the only way out redemption was to just destroy the damn thing. So yeah, I destroyed not only perfectly good DVD, but I also destroyed it and it was autographed, but really, I don't care. This movie sucked. I do love any shots like that I can use where, like, I have a different opinion, people point guns at me. That's a classic joke. Now, the whole thing, now this audio of the guy going, my god, that po man, that is from Forest Fire 101's Ultimate Lego Race video, where the original joke was, I think one of the characters crashed into a Lego movie theater. It's like, oh no, I hope he's okay. No, I don't think so. That's showing the new Twilight film. My god, that po man. Now, the DVD, the anonymous fan mail and this whole thing about a brilliant scientist. The idea in the storyline is that the Dark Lord had put Cell's soul or spirit or sprite into the DVD so that when my rage finally does come out, it unleashes Cell's full power and allows him to come out of the DVD. So the whole brilliant scientist was supposed to be a nod to Dr. Gero, but it's also a nod to the Ocean dub when Vegeta would tell Goku that Bardock was a brilliant scientist. Now that's really shameful when in the first 10 seconds of the movie they fuck up. They fuck up literally, I think, at the 10 or 20 second mark, the source material. And that's gotta be a record for any kind of adaptation to go that far to adapt it. But yeah, that was just the beginning of it. And what's funny is like this joke with, you know, burn everything, destroy all the notes and everything. One, that's a clip from the film Argo, which is one of my favorite Ben Affleck movies. Great film. But that was actually a joke that Josh came up with. That was one of his jokes where it's like, burn all the source material, don't fuck it, we're not gonna make it happen. But yeah, so this was Josh's joke right here. And I love it. That was the first joke, I'm like, that's funny. Now, obviously, this is a nod to Nostalgia Critic's review of Bebe's Kids, where he's already getting pissed off to destroy it, but I had to go there. And yes, I actually did slam it on the DVD in there, and it was just, like, taking a beating, so I knew at that point the movie was unplayable, and another reason why I had to destroy it. Yeah, like, I mean, Justin's okay, but he just terrible acting. He looks good, but it's just, no. It's not Goku. Now this joke here, again, this was all being written as we were doing production. So this joke of me with Gohan, that wasn't in the original script, but then I thought, oh, I can actually do something with this, because as a kid, I watched this episode here with Gohan, and I actually did try this, and it was funny, because I got my hands to a point of tensity where I felt some sort of weird kind of static thing in my fingers, and I thought, oh shit, that's key. So I wanted to pay homage to that when I was a kid, and I used to do that, and basically the way I did that was just having it where it was just this little skit. Again, the green screen work on this episode is some of my best work, I think. I think just over the years, as I've learned more how to do it, I've been able to perfect it. And it's also about lighting. That's one of the things I started to learn, was lighting is key to green screen. But a lot of this was just, I thought, okay, I gotta just come up with something. So a lot of these jokes were very improv. So I just added pretty much the funniest bits. I showed the bit to Brad, and he picked out the funniest bit. So everything that is supposed to be funny here is what Brad picked, because he thought, okay, that's funny. That's not funny, cut that out. But almost everything went in there. And I just love this clip. And also, big thing that helped with this episode was the music, and that was due to Bruce Falconer's work, and I tried to use as much of Bruce's work as I possibly could. Like, I mean, I like some of the Japanese music, but Bruce Falconer's work on Dragon Ball Z and the Funimation dub was obviously the best. And what really sucked about some of the orange boxes is that they actually had to go back and redub some stuff, and especially with Chris Sabat, and I miss the old school early Chris Sabat dubs of Vegeta. So it's one of those things where if you want the definitive English dub versions of Dragon Ball Z, if anything, I'd highly recommend getting the old VHSs, because the tapes actually are not only of better quality, but they're also of better, of the original, unaltered, dubs before they changed it for digital. Which is my biggest problem with digital, media, with digital renditions or, remasters, is that they always change shit. They always George Lucas it. Now, yeah, that is a pot joke. I'm not gonna lie, that is a pot joke, but it's funny, and I always wanted to do, like, one of those disclaimers where it's like, side effects may include diarrhea, diarrhea, diarrhea. That was actually in the original script. The whole thing was, side effects may include diarrhea, 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 because it's every time they said that in one of those disclaimer, medication commercials, it's the funniest thing. But a lot of this was just actually just kind of getting to the point where, like, yeah, we made a joke about that, but I think this was also at the time that YouTube was doing, a lot of censored stuff and, you know, the whole kid-friendly shit, but thankfully they've changed that, and they've actually done it for the better. I think actually the way they've handled the way monetization works now is a little bit better than before. That kidney stone joke was actually another Josh joke. I remember we were doing the riff, and I was drinking something, and he said that, and I spit out my drink. It was hilarious. Now, this was a joke I've always wanted to tell. This was one of the earliest jokes in the review, was this nod to the first Back to the Future, because I just felt I need to... That's one of my favorite scenes in the trilogy. Even though it's not my top 10 Back to the Future moments, it is a really great, like, bit that really sets up the tone. And also, just to play Power of Love again. I'm sorry, Power of Love is one of the best tracks of the 80s. Now, what's great about it is that you don't have to worry about music or anything. You can just use the audio, and it works so much better. Now, somebody did point out, yeah, it's 13. It's like 8:13, not 5 minutes in. Well, that was a little continuity error, but everything else I did try to match. Now, doing those clock shots, I had to wait at the 5-minute mark to get all those shots, so I just quickly went around the house and got as many shots at the clock as I could in a matter of a minute, which is great. Yeah, like this is just, again, cliche after cliche of movies that have nothing to do with Dragon Ball. Like, here's the thing, Akira Toriyama has always been a fan of movies. Like, he's paid homages, like, to, you know, Superman and a couple other things. Hell, you look at, you know, the whole Cell Saga, that's just Terminator. That's just the entire Terminator series. And one thing that he actually did better than I think the recent sequels did was actually Cell is supposed to be a biological Terminator, which is great. Why they haven't done that yet, I have no idea. But, yeah, this one is just... No, the thing is, I don't mind the hoodie. I don't mind that. I don't mind some of the American changes, but yeah, like, this is not good. And yeah, this isn't... This is Spider-Man, not Superman. It's like a different thing. But this is also something I think Erod had brought up in his review, the Blockbuster Buster. He did bring up that it was Spider-Man, but I wanted to go the extra mile. Yeah, they were pretty much ripping off Spider-Man, the recent Sam Raimi films, but in reality, Goku was based on Superman. And that's one of the reasons why I do defend the adaptation of this film with Justin Chatwin, is because Goku's alien, they can pretty much do whatever they want. Because he's alien, he doesn't have to be one group of people, essentially. And yeah, that's literally Goku in this movie. Go bad! I feel so bad for Tobey Maguire and all the memes that have been made at him. See, the thing is, too, yeah, this is the thing with Goku in this movie. He's pretty much a mix of Peter Parker and Edward Cullen. And that's the only thing gripe I have with the hairstyle, is that it's very Edward Cullen. It's also the same thing with, Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. But yeah, so, again, a lot of the clips I had to take off YouTube from all these different compilations and everything, because, you know, ripping every episode of the show would have been impossible at some points. I do like that poster. I'm not gonna lie, that poster has actually sold me. I actually had that as a wallpaper in my old computer days on a Windows XP. Ask your grandparents' kids what Windows XP is. And I'll admit, this is the one joke in the movie I thought actually was true to Dragon Ball. That's funny. That's actually legitimately funny. I actually did chuckle at that, because I'm like, as a fan, for people who know who the Saiyans are, that's actually legitimately funny. Now, we have this scene, again, flashbacks to our sort of review/fan film, which is common for our show now. Goku is voiced by the great HEWY TOONMORE of HEWY's animated movie reviews. HEWY and I have actually been friends for a couple of years now, and he's a really great guy to hang out with and write reviews with. In fact, he's actually helped me write a few episodes. And normally with HEWY, he asked if he could be involved in voice acting however he could. I said, absolutely. And funny enough, when I did this episode, I actually did reach out to a lot of the Funimation voice actors to see if they would be interested. Unfortunately, due to contract reasons, they could not. I even tried to reach out to TEAMFOURSTAR, and they could not because they were busy. And at the time I wrote this episode, I think they were getting towards the end of the Cell Games 3-parter, but yeah, unfortunately they couldn't make it, so I just had to use whoever I could. Thankfully, I had some great voice actors involved. HEWY TOONMORE, obviously, for Goku. Piccolo and Vegeta was actually voiced by one guy who I met at Anime North, who does an amazing Vegeta impression. Android 18 is voiced by BAETEEN on YouTube, who is another great impersonation of Meredith McCoy's work. So I'll leave all links down below for these people if you want to check out their content. Now, a lot of people have pointed out that this whole scene is basically The Dark Knight Rises when Batman fought Bane. Yes, that is true. I felt that was the better way to do it, because, again, one of the things I do when I write my stories is I do self-roleplay, so I kind of think about how I would want the scene to play out. And eventually I came up with the idea, yeah, that this character would break Goku. Maybe not spiritually, but just through the body. And so he punches him so hard he breaks his fucking back. Now, the whole thing is, like, basically I wrote all this down and I pretty much took the Dark Knight Rises script and just replaced Batman with Goku and myself with Bane. I mean, all that's missing is for my character to sound like this. I'm Bane! But yeah, oh man, just to use a lot of this stuff was great. And again, the backgrounds, there's a lot of great digital backgrounds I got to use on this one. And this fight scene, actually, I think is really damn impressive. Now, a big thanks has to be given to, I can't remember who has all these Dragon Ball Z green screen shots on YouTube, but somebody actually has had character shots of, like, what's called masking, where they use the previous animation, but actually take out all the backgrounds, and for anime, it works amazingly. So a lot of these shots, I gotta give a major thanks to, I can't remember who it was, but they did such an impressive job that these came in handy, so I'll put a link to their channels below, because they were a major help in getting these done. So I actually did reach out to them, too, to do exclusive shots, which they only did a couple, but they were a huge help. And another big help was Mason McCleary, who actually got a few shots for me done as well, because he's a great special effects guy in Australia. Now, this is probably my most impressive. It's just the fast fighting, because all I had to do was just, like, pretty much move and react to nothing, knowing I would put the character in there and then just like speed up the footage to make it look like a fast fight scene. And that's the easiest way to get it done. Just shoot your choreography and then do it like on repeat as you're going through a sequence outside, and then just speed up the footage. It'll look like a big fast fight scene. Do I wish we had wires? Absolutely. But I have no idea how to do wire work, which is something I definitely want to do at some point. But yeah, these shots came out really damn well. I'm actually really impressed with them. Yeah, just... right, I will break you, Batman! Oh, it's so good. It's so good. And, again, a lot of this was written early on when I was a kid, and I just only perfected it in a script form. And that's the thing you gotta remember with my show. A lot of ideas you're seeing I wrote years ago, when I used to, like, write a lot, handwritten stuff, and I'm just finally incorporating those now into story elements. And that's one thing I do say to fans, like, if something comes out and it's not your preconcession of what the film's gonna be, save your ideas and use your own, make it into your own movie. Yeah, again, these shots came out so well, and I love the speed-up shots where I just go, like, instant transmission and stuff. That's great. That's the shot I love. It's just punching him so hard, it breaks him, and he falls out of the ring. Great stuff. And just the reactions from Vegeta and stuff. Again, these are all pulled from the show itself. Now, these, the announcer was actually the original announcer, but they were rips from audio from some of the Budokai games, which were great to use. I do love this bit here, like this whole, looks at 18 like, you're next. Ah, it's all good. And yeah, this was the start. This was also a good chance for me to talk about, sort of the storyline of the show and where everybody came from and everything, but we'll save that for part 2 when it comes to talking about that stuff. And obviously we go to a commercial break right here, so Big Jack Films 100th episode, we'll be right back. And now, back to our show. I remember, I think like Fox used to do that where it's like, stay tuned for more Dragon Ball Z. And now, back to our show. And Jamie Chung was actually a pretty good casting choice as well, I'm not gonna lie. She's a great actress. Now, this joke right here, this was easily probably the first joke I ever wrote for this review. This was the first thing that kind of sparked, like, I need to talk about this movie. I need to talk about the show, and then I also need to talk about the movie. And this joke was the first thing that came up, because, obviously, I was listening to the Mask soundtrack, or actually I was watching the Mask one day, and I saw that scene with Cameron Diaz in her first film entrance, and what an entrance for an actress, so I figured that worked perfectly for this joke. So a lot of this was mimicking that scene in The Mask where she shows up, and that's a movie I actually want to talk about at some point. And yeah, that was another early bit, just using John Truck going, oh, it's 2 out of 3, we're in the black! But yeah, the music just works so well introducing this character. And yeah, obviously, you gotta make jokes like this. You know, any chance I can to just beat up my junk, I will. Not in that way, but just to literally murder it. It's great. And this is all true. A lot of this is true without being discreet. This is a very true fact that this is the best character in the show. In my personal opinion, and this is why you see her on my show. And it's just, yeah, this was the earliest pitch to the show, to this episode. It was just writing this joke. Was just, you know, that whole scene. And then that leads to a bigger story, which ultimately really starts to secrets being revealed in part 2, which I will do a commentary on. You're going to see commentaries on all 3 of these. I just love this. I love just, like, the chipmunk voice, and I'm just like, it's funny how we first met. Flashback! So, this episode does act not only as a retrospective on this film, but also as a backstory to the show, because there's a whole lot more to talk about in terms of backstories of how things are established in the show. It's almost like writing a prequel trilogy, except with that crappy dialogue. No offense, George. So this was one of my favorite scenes to work on, was this whole sequence. And again, a major thanks to BAETEEN on YouTube. She is such a talent to work with, her and Queen 18. At some point, I do try to switch them around when I can. but in total of actresses we have to play this character, we have a total of 3. One being BAETEEN, the other being Queen 18, and the other being BATTYALANA for live-action sequences. All 3 are fantastic, and I couldn't be working with any other better people, and in fact, BAETEEN is actually, her impression is so good. It's on par with Meredith McCoy's work, and again, funny enough, I'm friends with Meredith McCoy on Facebook, and I didn't really reach out to her because I was just kind of shy to do so, but I did reach out to her. I knew if I was going to get to the Funimation voice actors at some point, I had to go ask the main people, so Chris, Sean, and everything, and unfortunately they were busy, so I knew Meredith was kind of out of the question, so I went to some backup people, of course, and BAETEEN, again, what a great performance here. She pulled it off so fucking well. And, yeah, I just love this, the fight scene is... This fight scene's a little less than the Goku one, but I did try my best. At that point, I had finished the Goku scene, and getting to this scene, it was a lot easier. And again, what's great about writing this story is staying true to the lore, because this actually does take place in between Boo, the end of Boo, and Super. So the trick is when you're writing fanfiction stories or fan anything... just make sure your stories do not interrupt the continuity and the flow of time through the series. So it's good to kind of establish these stories in between certain plot lines. So for me, if I'm writing a story about Dragon Ball where we have new characters, write them in between a certain massive storyline in order to make yours essentially canon without it being canon. And a lot of this fight scene was based on the episode where she fought, I forget, Mighty Mask, which was Goten and Trunks. Now, in terms of doing making this a few parts, I knew at this point if it was going to be 2 or 3 parts, I had to do what they did back then on Cartoon Network, where, you know, it's like you have the announcer voiced by Kyle Herbert, who would be like, you know, what will happen next time on Dragon Ball Z? And I had to do that. And again, I reached out to Kyle, he was unavailable, so I then I put out a casting call, and my buddy Gord, who does amazing Beast Wars cosplays, actually does a good impression of the narrator, and I just sent him the scripts, and it was great. So he did all this narration. And again, much like how they aired it on television, they'd always have a preview for the next episode. And my favorite moments were always kind of reenacting how Sean would do Goku, where it's like, hey guys, it's me, Goku, on the next episode. And like, I just wanted to do that as, this is pretty much not only a review, not only fan film, but it's a tribute to the show as a whole, which I really enjoyed doing overall. Now, what's great is some of these shots, because you can barely see the characters in some of them, so you could act them out where I didn't have to do a green screen shot of me flying away. I could only do it from ground. And yeah, that is a Sharpie pen, unfortunately, because I think I was just trying to find the right prop, and I couldn't find one on time, so I said, fuck it, put it on a Sharpie. And make it look like some sort of needle injection, like an EpiPen for, like, allergies. So yeah, this was basically based on whenever it's like, hey guys, it's me, Goku. Again, massive tribute to everything I knew about the show growing up. And it was just great to kind of put little previews together to get people excited, knowing that this wasn't over, that this was going to be a part 2. Little did we know it would be a part 3. I think that's the other thing I teased. It wasn't, I never teased it being 3 parts. It's just, let's see what happens next time. And I didn't want to put an episode title, just put to be continued, to be concluded, much like the Back to the Future trilogy. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this commentary, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Can't wait to get to part 2 and 3. Those are going to be a lot of fun to put together. I just wanted to give you guys a commentary on Thursdays while we're still going through some certain things right now in the world. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. And of course, if you want to see these episodes, I'll put them in the description below. And I'll also, if you guys have any more questions or anything about the episode for the next commentary, let me know in the comment section below, and I'll try to include them in the in that episode, in part 2. So, until the next episode, guys, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you guys later. This is Big Jack Film signing off, saying good luck trying to do a Roger Rabbit-based episode, because it is hard. Later.